Hi, so we're in the garden today talking about seed saving. And in particular, I'm going to show you 3 different types of seed saving. So each plant is a little bit different in how you save the seed. But these 3 types that I'm going to walk through are probably 3 of the main ways that you can save seed. And I'm going to start with the easiest one and work my way to something that's a little, I wouldn't call it hard, but it has a few more steps. Now, there's multiple reasons why you might want to save seed, but I can think of 3. Number 1 is that it reduces the cost of gardening. So if you don't have to buy seeds, even though I'm completely addicted to buying them, if you save your own seed from open pollinated heirloom type varieties, you don't have to buy those seeds anymore. So by keeping them, you are obviously saving some money. The second reason why I do it, and it's probably the main reason why I save my own seeds, is because by saving your own seeds, the plant that has grown has acclimated to this particular weather. So as I save these seeds, regrow them, and just take my healthiest plants each time and save the seed from just the ones that were the most yield, or they fought good against the bugs, or they held up to the humidity. When I save those particular seeds, when I regrow the plant the next year, I'm getting better and better quality of a plant, which means I'm getting better yield, more resistance to bugs and mildew. I'm just creating this seed generation that does and acclimates better to the climate that I'm in. And this is especially important because each garden, I think, in Florida can be a little bit different. I have a garden over at my mom's house, which is only about, 20 to 30 miles south of here, but it is completely different the way things grow there as opposed to my home garden here. So by saving your seeds from your garden, you're creating an ecosystem and a generational seed that has acclimated to this particular environment, this soil, this air, this humidity, these bugs, everything. Now the third reason I do it is because I think it's fun. And it's easy. Like, all you really have to do, and I don't know if you see here, I kind of have some corn in the way, but what I have here is pretty much what looks like a dead plant. And this is a sugar snap pea. It's one of my favorite peas to grow. It was here before the corn was here, and it has since died off. And that's what you really want to happen to the plant, is you want it to die off. And you want these seed pods. So let me take one off here. Let's take this one. You want that seed pod to dry out completely as best you can. Sometimes that's more difficult because of the humidity here. Sometimes they mildew before they dry out, and so that's something to take into account. This one looks really good. It's nice and brown, it's crispy. The skin isn't soft anymore around the bean pod. So this is a really good example of the type of seed you want to save. And you can feel underneath the pod that the peas that are in there are hard, like rock hard. And so those are the ones you want. You want fully mature, preferably dried on the plant. There are times when I have not been able to dry on the plant. I have leaf foot bugs, and they like to bite into the seed pods and suck the moisture out of the beans, which cause the beans to die inside the pods. So sometimes I have to pull my beans before they get to the dry stage, when they're at the yellow stage, and that's okay, but just know your germination rate is not going to be as good with those seeds as if you let them fully dry and mature. It's really the maturity aspect, and by letting them dry, you know that they're absolutely 100% mature. So all you do is you kind of peel open that, and what you see inside there are the seeds. And so I have 3 in here, which is kind of typical of a sugar snap pea. And there's my seed. This is what I will grow next year. So I will go through the rest of this plant and I will pull off all the dried beans, and I will take these seeds and I will set them on like a paper towel or a tea towel or a paper plate or something in my house, just to make sure that they sit out for about 2 or 3 days, just to make sure that they dry out completely before I store them in little paper envelopes with their date. Make sure to put their date, because seeds do start to lose some of their germination after a certain number of years. Some it's like 1 to 2 years, other plants can go crazy long, 10 years. I've seen people take seeds from 30-year-old seeds and recreate or grow a plant and get it to germinate and everything, which is incredible, I think. But that's how you save like beans and peas. The next plant on the list of seed saving is actually mostly like your greens and your lettuces, which this was, if you can see it, this was a mustard green. I accidentally planted it. I'm really not sure how that happened yet, but I had gotten some seeds that was a lettuce mix, and they didn't turn out to be lettuce. They turned out to be this mustard. And I thought, oh, well, I'll give it a shot. Absolutely love it. So since I don't know exactly what kind of mustard it was, this is a perfect example of why I save seeds, because I don't know what type it was. I really can't even remember where I got that salad bowl mix from, but I did go ahead and let it completely grow out. I mean, the plant was only about, I don't know, about that tall, and when it gets to seed saving, it gets very tall and very, very bushy. What will happen first in these types is that you'll get the plant to grow upward. It will grow straight up, that's called bolting. And once it grows straight up, it will produce flowers out the top. Once the flowers have bloomed, you're gonna start to see these pod-like things coming off of it. And the pods start out as little green, they kind of look like tiny green beans. And so if you let those completely grow, mature, the flowers will fall off, and what you'll have left with is these green pods. And you can allow those, just like with the peas, to completely dry, which is what has happened here. Now, I have quite a bit on this plant, and some of them have actually already fallen off, you can see. So probably in this grassy area, I'm going to end up with quite a significant amount of mustard green growing outside my bed. But that's okay. But I want to save some. So I got a paper bag. With my paper bag, I'm going to kind of tuck these in here. Now you could cut them completely off. I'm going to attempt to do this by tucking them in, and even as I kind of push them in there, like so, they are starting to fall off. And then I'm just going to grip very tightly and squeeze down the plant. They're so brittle that they have pretty much broken open. Now what you could do instead is you could cut this from the plant. So say for example, this guy right here. There's so many falling. You could cut a branch from it, place it in the bag, and do the same type of thing. Just kind of pull down on them until all of the seed pods have broken off into the bag. So I'm just going to do this on a few more, and then I'll show you what the next steps are. So our next step in saving our mustard seeds, which in case I didn't mention this to you before, I am saving some of the seed for growing next season, but I'm also saving some seeds to attempt to make mustard. So I pulled off as much as I could from the plant into this paper bag. The paper bag is strictly just to collect it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a paper plate, and I'm going to dump it all onto this paper plate. You can use a regular plate, you can use whatever you have. And I'm just trying to get every little bit that I can. Okay. So I think that's good. And so what you see here now is a lot of the husk has fallen. The husk of the pods that were there has kind of fallen to the top, and the seeds are heavier, so they fall to the bottom. So the first thing I'm going to do is kind of like shake off and get rid of some of those pods. Some of that excess pods that are up there. And then what you'll start to see is I'm getting to the point where if I pick up pods, I'm going to be picking up seed. So I'm kind of shaking it around to let the heavier seeds fall down to the bottom of the plate so that I can scoop up a few more of these pods. And when you get down to the last few, this is my little trick, I blow the seed pods off. Just a gentle blow. You can do it with a fan. I just stand out here for a couple minutes and just blow all my seed pods off. And it leaves, you can start to see the red, brownish red seeds. It leaves the heavier seeds on the bottom, and you're blowing off the pods, which are lighter. Ah, got a good one there. It only takes a couple minutes. And now, as you can see, I have nothing but seeds. And I'm gonna just go ahead and leave these out for a day or two on my counter to let them fully dry. I think they're pretty dry, so I probably could just put them in an envelope right now. But I always let them out for a day or two just to completely ensure that they dry out. And that's it for the mustard seeds, or like I said, you can do this with lettuce or pretty much any of your greens behave in this fashion. Our next type of seed that we're going to save is from a tomato. So I have some Everglade tomatoes here that I'm going to save the seeds. So the first thing that you want to do is pick the tomato that is the ripest. So you're going to want it to continue to ripen on the vine as long as possible, to the point that it basically kind of looks almost rotten, or it's just about to go bad. So I have this Everglade tomato. Now this type of seed saving is for your seeds that, or your plants that are like a fruiting plant that have wet seeds from the inside. That's going to be like your cucumbers, your summer squash, your tomatoes, maybe even like your eggplants and things like that, because these seeds are encased by like a jelly-like substance that you have to extract from it. Remember, everything with seed saving is picking the most ripe seed possible. So when it comes to tomatoes or cucumbers, you have to let that tomato or cucumber ripen a lot on the vine, much further than you would if you were going to pick it and eat it. So I have my tomato. The next steps for this one, we're gonna go inside and we're going to extract the seeds from the tomato. So we're in the kitchen now with our little tomato, our little Everglades tomato. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to gently kind of cut it in half. I already lost one seed right there. And I'm going to take this little glass and I'm going to push the seeds into my little glass, but not the pulp of the tomato, not the rest of the tomato. I just want the seeds. So I've squeezed them all out. And you can see them kind of, there's only a small amount there, but you can see them in the cup. And I'm just going to add a little bit of water to my seeds. And so they're down here and they're floating. Give them a little stir, agitate them. And then I'm going to leave this cup on my counter for probably like 2 to 3 days, and every time I can think about it that I walk by, I'll walk by and give it a stir. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get those little membranes off the seed so that way it will store better and dry easier. With the membranes on, the seeds will just rot. So that's why we do it this way. We're basically fermenting these seeds, letting the water ferment that membrane coating so that it comes off and slips off. I did a few of them the other day in this little cup, and you can see the water's getting kind of cloudy. And I don't know if the camera's gonna show it, but there is a lot of like pulp and stuff in here. It will probably start to smell a little bit. You know, it'll start to get a little funky. The water will get cloudy. You'll start to see the pulp coming from the seeds slipping off. And then all I do every couple of days is, see this? I'll pour off the water, but leaving the seeds. And I can see my seeds, they are not completely disattached from their membranes yet. So I'm just gonna pour a little bit more water back into it, fresh water, so my kitchen doesn't smell bad. And I'll stir it up and I'll see if any of them will disattach from the membranes, which they didn't. So they just need to sit a little bit longer, and you just keep doing this where you pour off and add more water. And now when you're ready to save these, when all the membranes have slipped off, what you'll do is you'll drain off as much water as you can. I use the spoon to kind of hold the seeds back. And then once you have that, I'll scoop up the seeds and I'll take them and I'll lay them flat on a paper towel and let them dry. Now what typically happens with that is that they will dry to the paper towel, which is fine. You just let them dry all the way and then kind of peel them off the paper towel and then put them in their sleeve. So this is how you would do, like I said, tomatoes, cucumbers, some of your summer squash. I found that the larger squashes, the membranes can just be washed off because the seeds are much larger, but with these small guys, this is how I get the membranes off the seeds so that I can save them. So that's our episode for today. If you enjoyed this episode, if you found it helpful, give me a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe to the channel.